Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and Tim Hankiewicz from
Hi.
Orchestra Iowa is back.
Good to see you.
How was your summer?
It was pretty eventful. I loved it, but alas, even I have to go back to work. Yeah, sadly. Yeah.
And, and the orchestra didn't shut down after 100 years.
We're looking pretty good for 101, man. We're still pretty spry.
And in your, I loved your Symphony 101 video, which I'll include a link to in the show notes. That was a hoot for those watching the video. If you're listening on the air, you can find it on our Facebook page. But you actually use the line, if you've been in a coma for the last year.
Right, yeah. In case you didn't realize it, yeah, we did turn 100 last year, and so this is actually an interesting theme, to go into the future. It's a new era, 101, our 101st season, and so I'm really excited about that.
Well, and it just points up. I mean, you've been with the orchestra a while. I've been here at KCCK for a while. It just really points up how we are the custodians of these organizations,
right.
And it's our job to turn them over to the next generation
Correct.
In good shape so that it does continue well beyond our tenures here.
Well, in case your audience doesn't know, we hang out quite a bit, and in fact, we were talking about this over cocktails yesterday, this very subject. Yes, both you and I have a similar challenge in which we promote an art form that we love. And how do we make it relevant for the people to come and hear it? And at the same time, what does the future bring? How do we create the music of the future and the performance experience of the future? And that's an ongoing conversation. And in fact, that's what both you and I have been doing throughout our entire careers, and it's going to continue.
And so far, so good.
So far, so good. I have to admit, I have a little bit of a musical hangover from last year because we pulled out all the stops.
Yeah,
we dug deep, and so now here we go on a new season, and it hasn't stopped because in many ways, one of the ways in which we honor our future is to identify those artists who are. Well, they're already internationally respected now, but are on a career path that will make them certainly international phenomenons and likely won't be able to grace our stage for much longer. And our opening artist for this opening concert is Bella Hristova. And I'm telling you, I really believe in her. I've known her for, 6 years now. It's hard to keep track with COVID in there, but I've performed with other orchestras many times. She performed with us on our second to last performance before COVID shut us down, and she has since come back last year as our guest artist for our gala. But now,
right, I remember that. Kind of a little,
just a taster. Yeah, exactly. So people who were at that event know, wow, she's legit. She's really great, and so she's coming back. And she's performing a work that I have not programmed in my entire tenure here, and that's the Brahms Violin Concerto. And there's a good reason for that. It's a symphony plus violin. I mean, it is a massive work.
Okay, Sure. Let me dive into that just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, because I don't always. So this is a violin concerto.
Right.
You say it's really a symphony. So what is start with between a concerto and a symphony? What's the broadly, what's the difference, and then what is it that makes this almost the one?
Oh wow! How much time do you got?
I know.
Now?
We could do a graduate level seminar.
Sit down for this. So a symphony is essentially it's a work that began in the 1700s, the style or the genre of it, but it's essentially a 3 to 4 movement work, and movements are to music like chapters are to a book. And it's usually just for a large collection of instrumentalists, and that's usually strings plus brass plus woodwinds plus percussion. And a concerto is when you take that form and you have a soloist and you play in opposition to each other. And when the concerto idea first came out, it was kind of more collaborative between the fabric between the solo and the orchestra was actually quite equal. And then by the time you get to the time of the Romantics, it's really soloist as hero, with just the backup band being the symphony, being, the pips behind, doing backup vocals. But when Brahms comes along, he goes back to that old style where the soloist is clearly the lead, but they're also a collaborator with the orchestra, and the orchestra has a very large role to play as well. And just in terms of scope, symphonies can get a little long. Symphonies normally around 35, 45 minutes long, and concertos tend to be shorter, 20, 25 minutes long. In this case, the Brahms violin concerto is 40 minutes long. And it is a meal in and of itself. It's hard to play. It takes a musician and a person of incredible technical skill to play it. But what makes the Brahms violin concerto so much more difficult than most other concertos is that the profound nature of the music making that is required. You're playing, for example, you might be playing a phrase, you're beginning a melody in measure 1, but you need to know exactly where you're going for measure 200. And so this open vista, this long-range thinking is what makes Brahms's music so difficult. And so I've been waiting for many years to find the right artist to perform this work here. A lot of people can play the notes. Not many can play the music. And wow, she's it. She's got it.
Is this a first for her performing this piece? Do you know?
No, she's performed it with many orchestras much more renowned than ours. So this is, most concertizing artists have this in their repertoire, but not all of them really excel at it. And this is kind of her party piece. She is magnificent.
What else is on the program?
Well, another symphony. We're going to sure.
It's really
two for one. Yes. So think of it as half price. Yeah, it's so the Tchaikovsky Fifth Symphony. And so the interesting thing is Brahms and Tchaikovsky were contemporaries. They knew each other. And they hated each other. And there's a quote by Tchaikovsky talking about Brahms where he said, "Oh, that," quote, pardon my French, "oh, that talentless bastard," end quote. Yeah, so, they weren't exactly the most fuzzy, tight couple there. But here's the reason, but they're from the same era, and so their music actually complements each other quite well. I think Tchaikovsky didn't like Brahms because it's kind of buttoned down and kind of cerebral, but also very spiritual and mystical in many ways, whereas Tchaikovsky is like, just hard on your sleeve, just like emotions just pouring out of every pore of your body. And so the unrestraint of Tchaikovsky probably offended the sensibilities of Brahms, and probably the staid, stoic nature of Brahms probably really put Tchaikovsky off, which is why the two never got together, never got along together very well. But yet their music is, it's great.
And would you say complementary in this case?
Absolutely complementary. Yeah. They literally, it's music from the same era, different perspectives. You play music all the time. Pick a decade, and two pieces can be remarkably different, although they were written almost at the exact same time and represent their time very well. It's the same idea. But the thing about the Tchaikovsky Symphony, nobody blows the roof off of a concert hall quite like Tchaikovsky. It is symphonic fire. And so it's good to get the creative juices of the orchestra going again.
Hence to the concert title, Forged in Fire.
It's almost as though we thought of that. Yeah. And it's so true. The violinists are playing passages that just make your hair stand on end, if not give you goosebumps. And this was also a piece that I conducted early on in my career and also early on in my tenure here. So it's kind of nice to bring this off, dust it off. And it's a great way to begin a sort of an uplifting sort of a trajectory to our season.
Forged in Fire, September 16th and 17th, evening concert in Cedar Rapids at the Paramount, afternoon concert on Sunday. You're at the Coralville Center for the Performing Arts, yes?
Coralville Center for the Performing Arts at 2 o'clock, and in both cases, there's a pre-concert discussion.
I was just going to mention the insights because if you enjoy, especially if you enjoy these conversations,
right.
You will really enjoy Tim and sometimes the guest artist, talking specifically between themselves about what's going to happen.
It's behind the scenes in the context of the pieces that we're playing, and sometimes we go on to left field about what's the status of the industry right now, and interesting things, and we love to talk to the audience as well. So at 6:45 on Saturday evening at the Paramount, we have Insights where you can hang out with us, and then an hour before our concert in Iowa City at 1:00 at West Music, just right across the street.
Oh, right across from the CCPA.
Yeah. That we get together and we talk through some of the music. So I hope to see you there, and I'm really excited about the beginning of a new century.
It is just a great way to start out. And speaking of kicking off the season, you are going to do a big reception across the way over at the East Bay that people can still buy tickets for.
Right. The old Smulikoff's building. It's a wonderful place for us to gather and just raise a glass and toast the new century together.
Yeah. And I think you can visit the website at orchestraiowa.org probably. And they'll figure out how to get you in on that. I'm going to be there. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Can't wait to see you.
It's going to be a great way to kick off the season. Orchestra Iowa back in action for the beginning of the second century this weekend at the Paramount Theater and at the Coralville Center for the Performing Arts. People want tickets, they can visit your website, which is
orchestraiowa.org. Also sometimes artsiowa.com. Both will work. Or you can pick up the phone and talk to somebody at our ticket office at 319-366-8206.
All right, Tim, thanks. Come back in a few weeks and we'll talk the next concert in the series.
Wonderful. We'll see you then.
Here we go. You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:30 or download the podcast. Watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture or using your favorite podcast app. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.